So this is going to be my hand. This was from maybe like 2 months ago. It was on the flagship podcast. So we'll set it up here. And I was playing 510. Boston Harbor Encore, 2,000 effective. So it was a daytime game. It was on a Tuesday. That's when I normally will play. And, it's a 2K cap game. So this was in, I would say, kind of like the beginning of the session, I want to say, kind of the beginning of the session. And I made a play here that is not very common for me. So under the gun, who was fairly nitty, or I perceived to be nitty, and everyone was about 2K deep. So under the gun goes to 30. MP1 calls. The cutoff, I'm on the button, by the way. So the cutoff, 3 bets to 150. So under the gun to 30, MP1 calls, cutoff 3 bets to 150. I have king, queen suited, king, queen of hearts on the button. And I choose to flat call. The power flat call to 3 bets is not normally a play that I will make. It's usually going to be a 4-better fold. Probably you could say that it leans towards a fold. I actually folded tens to a single 3-bet yesterday, and I was correct. It probably leans towards a little bit more of a fold here. And the villain in the hand and the cutoff he's probably a little bit younger than me. He was an Asian guy, not like a nerdy MIT Asian guy. Not like one of those guys where I might actually throw in the 4-bet more often if I thought he was, 3-betting at picking up like at a correct frequency. So I actually decided to flat here. I mean, I can count the number of times I've done this like in years. It's not going to be very often. So I call. And then the other 2 people call, of course. So UTG and MP1 call. So it's 4 ways at 510 in a 3-bet pot. Pot is $600. And hero has king, queen of hearts here on the button. The flop comes out queen of clubs. Queen of diamonds, 10 of hearts. Just like that. Queen of clubs, queen of diamonds, 10 of hearts. So I flop trips. Queen, queen, 10, and I've got king, queen. So it gets checked over to the 3-better. So check as normal to the cutoff. Who bets? 175 into 600. Now remember, the pot is already bloated. And I flop trips in a 3-bet pot 4 ways. And I was a little bit torn. I got a little bit of flack from some of our subscribers that were saying, oh, they would raise the flop here. It just seems like I'm not overly concerned even at 510 with necessarily like balancing, but like, my God, is that strong to raise the cutoff C-bet here with actually like one, and it's probably the worst value hand that I would have here. What I mean by that is like if I'm flatting sometimes with like ace, queen, and 10s, right? King, queen's going to be the worst one unless I flat with like queen, jack suited or something like that, right? Like it's just so strong with 2 other people to my left here that like you don't want to get some sort of crazy hero fold with like aces or something like that. You know what I mean? Now, with that being said, it seems fairly strong also to call, although, he bet 175, so it's a kind of a small bet. Like if I had jacks here, I'm trying to think of some other hands, right, that I would have. Well, because like I said, I'm not cold calling 3 bets very often. So maybe some ace, queen, maybe some jacks. And 10s, right? If I had jacks here, I think maybe I'd be forced to call, see what the other guys do behind me. It just seems so crazy for me to raise in this spot. So I call. And then the other 2 fold out. So now the pot's 950. Again, we started with 2,000. So we've got, a lot left. I mean, we've got like 1,600. Well, I mean, it's not a ton, but 1,600, something like that. Check the turn out. The turn is the jack of diamonds. Jack of diamonds. Some people saying the cutoff never has aces or kings with this bet. Yeah, maybe. That could be. Does that mean that it's a bluff or it's very polar? I mean, if it was a very polar range, wouldn't you tend to want to call there? So the turn is the jack of diamonds. Obviously not the best card for me in the deck now that ace king comes in. Backdoor diamond draw out there. And now again, look how strong I look by calling. And remember what I said about like, what are the hands that I might flat to a 3-bet here with pre? And maybe I would be forced to call with Jack, to the sizing on the flop. How about how strong my hand looks now, right? Like I'm either going to have a queen here, 10-10, or maybe Jack. I mean, can I call with ace 10 next to act with two people behind me if I flat with like ace 10 suited? So pot's 950. And now the cutoff bet's 500. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is this guy doing here? Like I should look so strong. So I'm doing the math out, and the pot is going to, if I were to call, the pot would be 1950, right? And we would have, about 11 or 1200 left in our stack. I mean, this cannot be a great card for me. Now, I've got trips. I'm also open-ended, if that matters, right? With, the king, queen of hearts. And I'm facing a half pot size bet, so I'm getting nearly 3-1 here. Let me ask you this question, because I remember some people saying in the forums, is this ever a fold here on the turn? Is this ever a fold? Spam stuff saying ace 10 should call on the flop, IOMO, with two people to my left. This one, it was just like one of these things where I just thought that he might have a lot of ace king here. With that being said, I mean, I don't know how much betting is going to be going on here on a board like this in a 3-bet pot, 3 ways. I'm also losing to 10-10 and Jack right now too. I don't know if Jack is betting here, but 10-10 for sure, right? I have some outs to those hands. So cutoff bet's 500. I'm doing the math out, and I'm like, all right, if I call, the pot will be 1950, and we'll have about 11 or 1200 left. And if unimproved, this is what I was thinking of, kind of an old school like Crush Live Poker, Fifth Street Chicken. If unimproved, right? Like say the river is a brick and he jams the river, then I'm just going to fold. But if he is running some sort of bluff here, if he's out of line, say he 3-bet with like ace 5 of diamonds or something like that, he has to give up at the end, right? Look how strong I look. So so if I don't improve and he jams, like I'm going to give it up and assume that he's going to give up with a lot of his bluffs at the end. And of course, I've got some equity against the hands that are beating me, which right now could be ace king or tens, right? Or jack. I don't think Jack's going to see bet off that often. So I call again. Now the pot's 1950. The river rolls off the deuce of clubs. So queen, 10, rainbow. Hero has flat called in the field to 3-bets on the button against the cutoff squeeze. When under the gun and MP1 called, it goes 4 ways to the flop. In a 3-bet pot, it comes to queen, 10. Check, cutoff bets 175. Hero calls, next to act on the button, fold. 950, turns the jack of diamonds, bringing in ace king. Cutoff bets 500. Hero calls. Pot is 1950, and the river now is the biggest brick in the world, and it's the deuce of clubs. As I said before, I think if villain jams here, which is basically what the bet is, right? I mean, he's got 1100 left. I mean, I guess maybe if he goes 600, it's like sick. I was probably prepared to fold. But he did not. He checked. Obviously, I'm all for making very, very thin value bets in certain situations, right? However, what would be the purpose of betting here, given this particular action? There can definitely be times when you arrive on the river with what perceived to be strong hands, like in an absolute sense, where there is no point in betting. And I think what we see here is the possibility of the cutoff having nothing and giving up on his bluff, where there would be absolutely no point in betting whatsoever, unless there's always that caveat of unless, like throwing in some sort of stupid reverse blocker bet in position of like 100 to induce a check raise. You know, as an old Lyman's, that's a situation that is way more prevalent in PLO than it is in Hold'em. When PLO is a very, very drawy game. So, you know, in the PLO, you make the nuts, all the draws like brick out. You're in position, the guy checks you think you missed the draw, and sort of as a Hail Mary, you throw in like a tiny like 1/15th pot size bet to try to induce the guy to make a play. But take that out of the equation. He's just going to fold if he's missed, right? And then do you have some possible value owns? Like, could I value own myself here if for some reason he checks like ace king? Because he's like, wow, Bart has so many 10-10 or jack-jack in his range. Like, I'm just going to check ace king. The only thing with that is like, is he checking to check fold ace king? Like, are we turning ace king into a bluff? Take that out. Or like he was just check calling with a stronger hand. So I think this is a square check back and it's not close. Let's see what the live chat says. I think you could bet and get called by ace or ace. I don't think that that's in play. Yeah. So hero checks back. And the cutoff has king of diamonds, 6 of diamonds. So he was very out of line. An old school squeeze with the king, 6 of diamonds picks up the world on the turn though. Starts a c-bet on queen, queen 10 with the backdoor. 3 to a flush, 3 to a straight. Picks up the world on the turn with the jack of diamonds, king high flush draw, and open-ended, and then gives up at the end. And this is exactly where we kind of fit into that whole, sometimes like when you call in an extreme configuration, like you are protected against bluffs, which can allow you to fold when your opponent makes that last aggressive action. Because people are going to be like, how can you call the turn and fold the river when nothing changes? Well, here we go. The bet in itself would be change. And you can see he gave up on his busted draw because he probably thought it would be, I have so many strong hands here that he's just going to get snapped off. Now, if he knew that I had king queen here, like if he could see my hand, would it be a good spot to bluff? Sure, because I was going to fold if he jammed. It is interesting to note, though, too, how often ace king plays this as a bet, too. Because if ace king, right, he blocks ace queen and he blocks king queen. And queen jack, pocket jacks and pocket tens are boats that he loses to. So that's interesting as well. Because you could make an extreme case where ace king might be a check fold here. Here, from my opponent's perspective, if he has ace king and I'm going to fold a queen to a bet, which I was going to, okay? You could make a case that his play with ace king is to actually check and fold because I will be checking behind with unboated queens, which I did. So then, given those assumptions, if he bets with ace king, it's too thin. And if he checks ace king and I bet, he doesn't have the winner. That doesn't mean that he's not going to win a good portion of the time with ace king when it goes check, check, which it would have done if he had ace king. So ace king for him might be, the play for him might be to check fold the river. To check fold the river with ace king here in this extreme configuration. Of course, it would have gone check, check, and he would have won. So with that, that's going to wrap it up.